My ex-husband showed up at my parents' house. "Can you pack your things and leave right away?" he asked. Ignoring my stunned silence, he continued, "My wife is pregnant. I mean your sister. Yes, my ex-husband left me for my sister 5 years ago. For the sake of the child that's coming, I want to create a good educational environment. We can make much better use of this house than you ever could, especially since you'll probably stay single forever. No one needs a barren woman like you. Understand? Stop fussing and just leave." I sighed and shook my head. "No way." "What? You really should. Don't you know who lives in this house now?" Right after that, as a large figure appeared behind me, he turned pale and started shaking. "Why?" "My name is Mandy. I am a 35-year-old office worker. Fortunately, I seem to be somewhat respected at work and am doing fairly well in terms of promotions among my peers. Although I am now living a stable life, it has been full of ups and downs. One of the major events in recent years was undoubtedly my divorce. The reason was my partner's infidelity. 5 years ago, my ex-husband, Fred, eloped. His partner was, shockingly, my own sister. Looking back, my sister had always been the type to covet what I had, so her actions were consistent, although outrageously inappropriate. At that time, Fred and I were colleagues at the company. He was gentle and attentive. I was attracted to those qualities when I was younger. Eventually, Fred also took a liking to me, and our relationship developed. After we had been dating for a while, I introduced Fred to my family, planning to marry him, so we discussed getting serious. When my sister happened to be home at the time, she saw Fred and exclaimed in surprise because they knew each other, having attended the same university. After that, my sister, Fred, and I often went shopping together. It was a very enjoyable time. This interaction continued even after Fred and I got married. However, after several such outings, I began to feel uneasy. Fred and my sister would get excited about topics I didn't know about, or they would start going out just the two of them. "Did you go out with my sister yesterday?" I wanted to join. "Yeah, maybe next time." Feeling uneasy about that, one day, a colleague from the company where we worked invited me out for a meal. I happily accepted, only to learn a shocking truth. Apparently, Fred was seen entering a hotel arm in arm with another woman. When I asked about the woman's features, it turned out to be my sister. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't deny it after being shown the photos. I received the photo data from my colleague and confronted Fred that very day. "What is this supposed to mean?" Well, it's..." Fred's indecisive attitude continued as he mumbled on. "So you've been betraying me all this time. The two of you must have had a great time making fun of me, huh? Was it fun?" No matter what I asked, he said nothing. He just kept silent and looked down. Fred disappeared the following day. When I woke up in the morning, Fred was nowhere to be found. Thinking it couldn't be, I called my sister but couldn't reach her. It was 3 days later that I found out Fred and my sister were together. A completed divorce form was sent to the house where I lived with Fred, and around the same time, I received an email from my sister. Her email simply read, "I will be happy with Fred." Naturally, I couldn't accept that, but I couldn't protest because I didn't know where they were or how to contact them. It seems that Fred had also mailed his resignation to his workplace, cutting off that connection as well. Left with no options, I eventually agreed to the divorce. For a while after that, I couldn't get over it. I couldn't come to terms with the fact that my own sister and husband had eloped, but I couldn't stay down forever. I decided to channel my frustration and resentment into my work. While I was focused on work, I could forget about Fred and my sister. This effort paid off, and my contributions to the company were recognized, and I was given a promotion. Since then, I've been fortunate with personal connections, and now, 5 years after they ran away, I'm leading a stable life. One day, when I was off work and woke up later than usual, I thought I should make breakfast and was getting out of bed when my phone, which was by my pillow, rang. It was a call. The screen showed it was from an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't answer, but I impulsively picked it up because I had just woken up. "Hello, who is this?" "Oh, Mandy, long time no see. It's me, Fred. Have you been well? I'm relieved you're still using this phone number." To my surprise, it was my ex-husband Fred on the phone. I almost fell off the bed from the shock. "What? Fred? Why? Why? That's cold. We're exes, after all. I thought I'd get in touch." Fred laughed as if nothing was wrong, which reminded me of the anger I thought I had forgotten. "What do you mean, exes? Don't joke around. How dare you contact me so brazenly? What do you want?" Now, calm down. You haven't changed a bit." His carefree tone only irritated me more. Sensing this, Fred finally got to the point. Right. You're living in your parents' house now, right? Can you pack up and leave immediately? Your sister and I have decided to live there." I couldn't make sense of it at all. What kind of thought process led to that? Actually, we got married, and we've recently found out about her pregnancy. We want to create a good educational environment for the baby that's coming. Of course, you wouldn't say no, right? After all, I'm being kind by saying this. If you stay in your parents' house forever, you'll never be able to remarry. My head started to ache. I didn't want to hear such nonsense. Indeed, as he said, I had returned to my parents' home. I don't know where he got that information, but it's correct. Yes, I obviously refuse. Why should I have to give up my parents' house for you guys? When I said that, he seemed offended and replied in a harsher tone, "Oh, sorry, I was wrong. I guess a 35-year-old infertile woman like you couldn't ray him anyway." When Fred and I were married, I never got pregnant. He must be referring to that, but it was a nasty way to say it. "Is that all you wanted to say? I will never give up this house." Then I hung up the phone unilaterally. I didn't want to talk to him anymore. He's too selfish to think he would try to take the house after eloping through an affair. I hope he gives up now, but who knows what will happen. Several days had passed. That day I was busy with work from the morning, and I only managed to take a lunch break after 2:00 p.m. After eating lunch at my favorite diner near work, I was entering the building's entrance to return to the office when I spotted a familiar figure. "No way. Why are you here?" It was Fred. He had gained a considerable amount of weight compared to 5 years ago, but unmistakably it was him. I instinctively tried to hide, but before I could, he saw me. Fred exclaimed, "Oh," and hurried over to me, flustered. "Oh, there you are. I've been waiting for our previous conversation. When can you leave?" "I'd like it if you could move out by next month." "I already told you no to that, and it's unbelievable that you'd come to my workplace. Just go back home," he continued with a smile on his face, but clearly annoyed. "You're saying that again? Isn't it obvious that it's better for my wife, our upcoming child, your parents, and me to live together in that house? Am I wrong?" This was going nowhere. No matter how much I refused, Fred persisted, and I felt a kind of fear. Enough with the persistence. "No matter how much you ask, it's impossible. You cheated and eloped on your own, so just live somewhere else by yourselves." As I said this, Fred frowned deeply and raised his voice. "Listen, the reason I cheated was because you were infertile. If you had been able to have children, I would never have cheated. It's all your fault, so take responsibility and provide a place to live." I was too stunned to speak. The way he shifted the blame for his infidelity to me was extreme. "Are you serious? I have work, so I'm leaving now." Fred looked like he wanted to say more, but he finally noticed the stares from around us and left the entrance with a parting shot. "Remember this." I thought this would finally make him give up. However, I soon realized that I had underestimated him. A week after Fred visited my workplace, as I was relaxing at home watching TV, the doorbell suddenly rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Nevertheless, I decided to check the intercom monitor. Standing there were Fred and my sister. I'd had enough. I quickly headed to the front door and opened it forcefully. "Hi, Mandy. Is your packing done? I didn't hear from you, so I came here directly." "Wow, long time no see, man. You heard from Fred, right? I'm having a baby. I'll let you spoil them once born." I sighed conspicuously. "What's wrong? You look tired." "Well, it doesn't matter. Listen, it's great that I'm having a baby, but we're out of money, so we need to stay in this house, okay?" She looked up at me pleadingly. Then Fred spoke up. Yeah, I realized recently this house isn't yours, right? Are your parents around? Let us talk to them. It's their first grandchild, after all. They're bound to accept us." At that, I couldn't help but laugh. To think they didn't know. "Why are you laughing? That's rude. Bring Mom and Dad out." "What, do you really not know? They aren't here anymore. Yes, my parents no longer lived in this house. After Fred and I divorced and I returned to my parents' house, they soon gave me this house as a living inheritance, and my parents were now enjoying their retirement in the countryside. So, I am the owner of this house." As I made that fact clear, both my sister and Fred were shocked. "Understand, this house is mine, so I have all the decisions rights here," I stated clearly. Yet Fred still insisted on arguing. "Then you can keep living here, and we can all live together again. Let's get along like before." "Yes, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. It must be lonely for you to live in such a big house all by yourself, right?" Just as I was about to counter their absurd suggestions, I was interrupted by a voice asking, "Is something wrong?" "Oh, it's you. Sorry for the noise." "Look, it's my ex-husband and sister I told you about." The voice belonged to my current husband. He was holding my daughter in his arms. He murmured, "I see," and greeted the bewildered Fred and my sister. "Good evening. I am Mandy's husband, and this is our daughter. Isn't she cute?" Fred and my sister were left gaping in shock. They were probably very surprised. The truth is, I had remarried about a year after divorcing Fred. I met my current husband through a friend's introduction. Things progressed quickly between us, and we got married within 6 months of dating. Soon after, I became pregnant with our daughter, and now I'm managing both work and household duties. My husband helps with housework and childcare, allowing me to progress smoothly in my career without neglect. I hope you understand now that there's no room for you two here. My husband, my daughter, and I, we are a family of 3 living happily together. What is Mandy? You're not infertile? No way. That can't be true. Fred slumped to the ground, holding his head in despair. What? How can you marry such a handsome man? That's so unfair. As she stamped her feet in frustration, my husband looked down at her with a cold gaze and said, "Given that, please leave. If you approach our family again, we will call the police. Understand?" Frightened by my husband's authority and the mention of police, Fred and his sister turned pale and fled. After that, They never appeared before me again. Struggling financially, they tried to approach Fred's parents' home, but having been disowned after the elopement scandal 5 years ago, they were quickly rejected. It's only natural. And from what I've heard through mutual friends, Fred hasn't changed and was once again embroiled in an affair. Currently facing a divorce crisis, surprisingly the reason was shocking. In truth, my sister wasn't even pregnant. It was all a lie to try to get back to the family home, and Fred was unaware of the non-pregnancy, apparently having been deceived as well. Such lies are bound to come out quickly. Although he had eloped with my sister to have children, it became clear she wasn't pregnant, so she became unnecessary for him. Fred was desperate for children and kept engaging in affairs. However, it is unlikely that he will have children in the future. He might even be infertile. I'm not a doctor, but considering the situation, it seems highly likely. When will he realize this? Or has he already? Anyway, it no longer concerns me. That was what I thought until one day, a letter from Fred arrived at our home. I was skeptical but decided to check its contents with my husband just in case. The letter was filled with admissions like, I was diagnosed as infertile at the hospital, and I regret running away 5 years ago. It also mentioned he wanted to try again with me naturally. I ignored the letter. Driven by emotion, my husband tore it up. Whether Fred gave up on reconciliation because there was no reply, or he never expected one in the first place, he never sent another letter. He was selfish and clingy to the end. Such a man should be quickly forgotten. As I walk my own path now, I live with my kind and caring husband and our lovely daughter. I am determined to protect the happiness we have finally seized at all costs.